You were in the water tower with women again, right? Yes. That train is going to come in one day, drain all the water up before you can get out, and leave you high, dry, and bare. It's really hot. Where else can we swim? Girls, don't worry about that. I have ideas for a big pool. We're going to put it right here. CBS made a choice in 1970 that shocked 40 million people. Even though it was still getting good numbers, they got rid of Petticoat Junction. It had nothing to do with the people. It had everything to do with marketers wanting to reach younger people. Most people thought that the world of Hooterville went away with the show when it ended almost overnight. But something lived on. In every beginning credits sequence, there was a water tower that is still there in California. Most fans have never heard the story of how it got there, what almost killed it, and what it looks like now. Ruth Henning spent a lot of time as a child at her grandmother's hotel in Eldon, Missouri. Those stays changed her in a way she will never forget. The Burris Hotel was right next to the Rock Island Railroad tracks. The place felt busy all day and night because trains went by all the time. People with dust on their shoes came in, and neighbors gathered to tell stories. Ruth just stood there and watched it all with wide eyes. Alice Burris Barr, her mother, told her stories from those early years and talked about how the hotel was more than just a place to sleep. Was a place where people could go to get help when things got tough and laugh with each other when things were going well. All of the sounds and smells stuck with Ruth, and Paul Henning used those memories to help him build the Shady Rest Hotel for Petticoat Junction. It was the same with the hotel and the show, they were both next to the tracks. Eldon slowly became the real Hooterville in their minds. From 1963 to 1970, the show had a warm feel because of that personal link. It drew viewers into a small world that felt familiar without them even realizing why. People loved the Beverly Hillbillies so much that they were number one on the Nielsen ratings from 1962 to 1964. CBS wanted more of whatever magic Paul Henning had. So he didn't need plans or pilots to show them why they should build Petticoat Junction when he came in with the idea. It was enough just to hear his pitch. He said there would be a cute little town. There were strong family ties and simple times that still had heart. They had so much faith in him that they gave him 38 shows right away and put him on at 9:30 p.m. on Tuesdays, right after Beverly Hillbilly. This wasn't often done, and the network didn't even ask for a test. The first episode aired on September 24, 1963, and fans quickly spread across the country. Henning's senses were still good because the show ran for 7 seasons and had 222 episodes. Grew even bigger when he made Green Acres in 1965. The show built a whole rural world that lived on for years. The Hooterville Cannonball Train, a cute little steam engine based on the real Sierra No. 3 locomotive in Jamestown, California, was a big part of that world. It was built in 1891, and Sierra No. 3 had already been in more than 100 movies and TV shows, from High Noon to Back to the Future Part 3. In 1897, he went to Railtown and saw the locomotive for himself. It looked old and alive as he watched it breathe steam and crawl down the lines. He got ideas for the cannonball, the water tank, the slow approach, and the whistle that blew through the trees from that trip. It was all based on what he saw in Railtown. The cannonball felt real because Railtown 1897 is one of the last places where steam trains still run from a real roundhouse. Instead of being made up, and fans liked it because every scene had a sense of American rail history to it. The people on the show had the same sense of what was real. From 1950 to 1958, Bea Benaderet was a star on the George Burns and Gracie Allen Show. In 1963, she finally got her dream role as Kate Bradley. He had loved her for a long time, and after seeing how well she played Cousin Pearl on the Beverly Hillbillies, he knew she could be the leader of Petticoat Junction. 57 years old when she started, but she made the hotel and the whole made-up town feel real with her warm presence. Before she died in 1968, she played Kate Bradley for 6 seasons and was in 145 episodes. She was also the first person to play Betty Rubble on the Flintstones before all of this. She played both parts until 1964, when she had to pick one. She gave the show heart, and Henning had finally made a show about the woman he always thought should be in the lead. From the moment Edgar Buchanan walked into the scene, he added a different kind of truth. He was born in 1903, 3 years before B. He played Uncle Joe Carson in all 222 shows, making him the only actor to have been in all of them. Uncle Joe was liked for being lazy, but there was something else that made him stand out. He was tough because Buchanan had been a dentist in Oregon before he went to Hollywood. People on the set talked about how he once pulled a stand-in's tooth during shooting without any anesthesia and only a shot of whiskey to help him feel better. Before Petticoat Junction, he played more than 100 cowboy parts. He brought that Western toughness to Uncle Joe. He played Uncle Joe on Green Acres and the Beverly Hillbillies, thus linking all 3 shows and becoming a link between Henning's worlds. The fact that Frank Cady played Sam Drucker on all 3 shows added another link to that chain. From 1963 to 1970, he was in Petticoat Junction, from 1965 to 1971, Green Acres, and from 1968 to 1970, he was in the Beverly Hillbillies. He was the only actor to play the same recurring role in all 3 shows at the same time. His piece. Drucker was the center of Hooterville because he was always there. Was in charge of the store. Heard everyone's problems and served as an unofficial tour guide for the town. Fans trusted him because he seemed familiar, and he became an important part of Henning's country world over the course of almost 10 years. In a different way, Linda Kay Henning kept the show's heart beating. She was in all 222 shows, but only 3 did not play Betty Jo Bradley. She didn't use her last name at first because she was Paul Henning's daughter and didn't want to look like a favorite. Instead, she used Kay. In the end, she even called herself Livingston. Until they chose Kay. She made a name for herself right away and became one of the show's most important faces after being born in 1943. In real life, her relationship with co-star Mike Miner grew easily behind the scenes, and the writers soon got behind it. In real life, they got married in September 1968, after getting married on TV in November 1967. Their love story came and went in the script, giving viewers a real reason to root for them. As the years went by, Edgar Buchanan's life behind the camera also surprised a lot of people through the years. In spite of leaving his dentist office when he was 36 and moving to Hollywood, he never really got rid of that part of himself. On set, he sometimes pulled actors' teeth or fixed painful problems while they were in an emergency. This made the rest of the team talk about him. With his medical skills and country charm, he was easy to remember. And those stories kept coming up long after he died in 1979. With his friends and old co-workers who still smiled when they thought of him. In 1963, Janine Riley beat out more than 300 other actors to play the part of Billy Joe. She made her own mark on the role. After just 2 seasons, she quit, which changed everything. She became one of the show's early stars very quickly. In 1965, when she was only 25, she quit to look for work in movies. Fans were shocked, and the show had to go through its first major group change. Riley went on to star in 8 movies, including The Big Mouth with Jerry Lewis in 1967. In the last season of the Beverly Hillbillies, she also joined the cast. In later years, she often said that being typecast made her job harder than she thought it would be and that Billy Joe's shadow followed her around more than she wanted. Pat Waddell made the story more interesting by adding to it. During the first 2 seasons of the show, she brought Bobby Joe to life, and she quickly became a fan favorite. In 1965, though, she left to become a singer. The way she left was calm and polite, unlike the changes that happened after her. Laurie Saunders filled in for her and gave the character a more bubbly edge. The shift made things different between the sisters, and Pat Waddell never came back to the show. She passed away peacefully, and friends loved her until she died in 2015. Betty Jo, played by Linda Kay Henning, was always there. In 222 episodes, she was in 220 of them. Over the years, she grew with the show. They tried to keep the link going by showing Kate Bradley in flashbacks in later shows. Linda's long run in friendship with Mike Miner kept people interested even as the cast and tone changed, making her one of the show's emotional anchors. When she took over as Billy Joe for season 3, she caused more trouble than anyone thought she would. She started dating Nat King Cole while she was working on the show. He was 46 years old and married to Maria Hawkins Cole when they met. Their affair got out very quickly. By reading newspapers and following her around while she worked. Cole was identified with lung cancer that would kill him in 1965. Maria told him the news, and he broke up with her before he died. Fans still thought of Hutton for more than her time on Hooterville after she left the show because of the scandal. After that, she married Alan Freeman and was married to him for 43 years, until he died in 2014. When Meredith McRae took over in season 4, she was the last Billy Joe. My three sons had taught her a lot before she came. Where she played Sally Morrison from 1963 to 1965. Many people thought that Gunilla Hutton had become unhappy and had missed work, so the directors quietly hired someone else. McRae worked for the show until it ended in 1970, making her the Billy Joe who had worked there the longest. Still, she was angry with herself. It was first planned for Billy Joe and Steve Elliott to get together. But the plot changed when Mike Miner and Linda Kay Henning fell in love outside of work. She was put on hold, but she kept going with ease through the last few years of the show. Even after she died of brain cancer in 2000, her fans stayed true to her. On September 24, 1963, Petticoat Junction came into people's living rooms. And it happened so quickly that it felt like it happened in an instant. For the premiere, which played on Tuesday at 9 p.m., the pilot episodes were cut together. About 28 million people watched. People wanted something warm. Something easy and fun. They got that from Hooterville without having to try too hard. People came back week after week to see Kate Bradley, her three children, the Shady Rest Hotel, and the Little Cannonball Train. With a 30.3 rating at the end of the first season, the show was in fourth place in the Nielsen ratings, behind only big shows like Bonanza and the Beverly Hillbillies. People with kids kept coming back because the show felt safe and friendly. It felt like the train noise meant that the night was about to get lighter. As the seasons went by, the population didn't change, but the numbers did. Hold on. The first season got a 7.4 rating from Nielsen. But by season 4, the show had moved up to a 20.9 average and was ranked 23rd. The jump, not by chance. After Beverly Hillbilly, they put Petticoat Junction right after it. And that lead-in brought in millions of extra people every week. People didn't even need to switch channels. The sound from the cannonball became a visual hook, and everyone knew what it was right away. By 1966, more than 15 million people watched each episode of the show. Families who liked the silly small-town stories stuck with Hooterville even when other shows were competing for the same time spot. Next came the crossover. And that made things even better. People rushed to their TVs every time figures from the Beverly Hillbillies showed up in Hooterville. More than 30 million people would often watch the show when Granny Clampett walked into the Shady Rest. With holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, these special times gave families a reason to get together in front of the TV. The universe felt linked through characters like Sam Drucker. It was like a small rural town where every road went to a familiar face. Some of the most watched episodes of 1968 were crossovers between shows. CBS understood they weren't just making sitcoms, but a community that people wanted to return to again and again. Season 5 had a lot of warm laughs, but it also had a lot of weight. In 1967, Bonaderet, who played Kate Bradley and was the heart of the show, fought lung cancer. Writers said Kate was away on business to explain her departure, but fans knew right away that something was wrong. That being said, the Nadrette came back when she could, acting normally even though she looked thinner and weaker from treatment. People in the crowd saw how strong she was, but instead of turning away, they paid even more attention. For 1967 to 68, the season had an average rating of 7.5, but at one point it hit a high of 19.0, thanks to the Small Henning Wedding Show, which marked a 25% rise above average. During a season when the show could have easily fallen apart, her strength kept it going. The world of Hooterville also kept getting bigger. In 1965, Greenacres was born from Petticoat Junction. Soon after, CBS made a Friday Country Hour where both shows ran back-to-back. The first season of Greenacres got a 24.6 rating, which put it at number 11 on the list. That means that the combined rural block had the most popular 30 TV shows for 3 years in a row. A lot of families came in to enjoy 3 types of small-town life: laughing, gentle chaos, and everyday life. People came to know CBS as the place to watch rural comedies, and this made the network's Friday lineup something people could trust. Behind the scenes, things looked very different, even with all the charm on screen. The scenes inside the train were shot in a plastic train shell that was set up on a soundstage in Hollywood. It wasn't even a train. To make it look like the building was moving, the crew had to shake it by hand. The end result was so bad that group members actually felt sick. There was a time when Bea Benaderet called it the nausea train, and she meant it. It didn't feel like a train ride at all, it felt like being tossed around inside a big toy. A lot of the time, actors had to leave the set to go to the bathroom before saying more lines. Scenes that were meant to be cozy and calm turned into something more like endurance. The reason for this was money. It was the same plastic shot shell that was made for the movie A Ticket to Tomahawk in 1950 that was used again. No one made it for comfort, and it wasn't made for long comedy shoots either. The cast got ready for long train conversations whenever the script called for them. The crew grabbed the sides of the building and shook it hard, making the room feel like a roller coaster instead of a ride to Pixley. Some players had to go to the bathroom in between takes just to calm down. Because of these shortcuts, train scenes were some of the hardest parts of filming, showing that the magic of TV sometimes had real physical costs. On February 16, 1967, Smiley Burnette, who played engineer Charlie Pratt, died of leukemia. This was another sad event for the show. He died right after finishing his parts for season 4. Charlie was one of the show's nicest people, and his death changed the mood on screen and behind the scenes. Ruth Davis, who played Floyd Smoot, took over as both the engineer and the director. But the silence was still there. Later, cast and team members talked about how the fake train set continued to make filming hard and how new actors felt the same C6 spinning that the original cast had. When Burnette died, it was the end of an era. The show went on, but there was no longer anything soft and comforting. Thankfully, not everything that happened inside that sickening shell was bad. For outside shots, the real Sierra No. 3 engine in Jamestown, California, was used. The real train, which was built in 1891, was a nice change from the rough stage ride for the actors. That was a great time to film because there was fresh air, open tracks, and history under their feet. The real locomotive was in many long shots, such as the opening and ending credits of the show. The plastic locomotive, on the other hand, stayed in the studio for all the scenes with a lot of dialogue. Fans still remember the water tower at Jamestown as a famous building. And the difference between filming in real life and the crowded studio set showed how hard it was to make the world of the show seem real. This story's charm also touched someone else in a way that most fans didn't expect. In early 1963, Sharon Tate was cast for a short time as Billie Joe Bradley. Crystal Gayle, country music, classic country music legend, celebrity then and now, famous singers, retro music, country star, entertainment news, iconic women, music history, vintage celebrities, Hollywood legends, aging gracefully, nostalgia, classic hits, music icons. In a strange way, those pictures helped her get big-time attention in Hollywood, but at the time, they kept her from getting regular TV parts. There were reports that her career had been harmed after she quit. Fans talked about the choices that were made behind closed doors, and the original wardrobe shots kept people interested by showing up in magazines like Esquire. Later, Linda Kay Henning said Tate was just too fancy for Hooterville. It was easy for Janine Riley to play the part, but Tate had to deal with the hiring story for years. Of course, things went badly for her when she was killed at age 26 in 1969. The time she almost showed up on Petticoat Junction is still a sad aside in her story, a time when things could have gone in a different direction. For years, Bea Benaderet was the warm heart of the show. When her health started to get worse, everyone on set could feel it. Because she had lung cancer, she missed 10 shows of season 5. And when she came back for the last show on March 30, 1968, she looked so weak that the cast and crew were quiet between takes. Even though her voice was softer and she moved more slowly, she still tried to give the show the warmth she always had. Her health got worse over the months, and by October 13, 1968, she was dead. Season 6 had already begun shooting, and because she was too sick to appear, her voice was dubbed over older footage to finish her last few scenes quickly. Before all of this, Petticoat Junction had risen to number 4 in the Nielsen ratings. But after she passed, it quickly fell to number 10. The show fell out of the top 30, and in the spring of 1969, CBS even thought about ending it. No one could fill the void she left, and the show's rhythm never came back. Back to how it was before. There was no plan to replace Kate Bradley when June Lockhart took over as Dr. Janet Craig in November 1968. Instead, the character was meant to be new. She was in 46 episodes of the show before it stopped in 1970. When she came on, the energy changed. She looked better put together and more sure of herself. Then the soft, country-like vibe Kate had given off. Many people strongly responded to the change that they saw right away. Some people didn't watch the show because they thought the heart had changed. The show's ratings dropped by about 15%, but June was able to keep them steady enough for 2 more seasons. Some people liked how strong she was, but others thought she had lost her old charm. Even though people had different reactions, she was an important part of the last few episodes of the show. There had already been cast changes on the show for a long time before that. That led to rumors and misunderstanding. In season 3, Gunilla Hutton left to be in a musical in London that never took off. This made room for Meredith McRae to come as Billy Joe. Pat Woodell and Janine Riley said they left because they got better job offers, but rumors spread about personal problems, such as Hutton and Jack Cassidy. The show's creators tried to keep the sister relationship smooth by making the girls more alike, but some fans missed how different they were in the beginning. Meredith stayed all the way through. But because the actors were being recast all the time, watchers felt like the ground kept moving under them. Back then, this was a normal thing to see on TV, but for Petticoat Junction, it hurt the chemistry that used to draw in millions of viewers. Linda Henning had her own problems to deal with. As Paul Henning's daughter, she was cast as Betty Jo Bradley, but her name was changed to Linda Kay so that people wouldn't think it was favoritism. Because he was afraid of that, her dad even tried to keep her from going to the interview. Bae Benaderet was the one who told her to try out for the part. Fans eventually found out about the link anyway, and she was asked about bias the whole time the show was on. People loved her relationship with Mike Miner on TV, but when they got married in real life in 1968 and split up in 1973, the attention from fans added another layer of complexity. There were people who thought the show was falling in on itself because the stories around them were getting too focused. Edgar Buchanan was the only thing that stayed the same through it all. Fans loved the way he moved slowly as Uncle Joe. By the time the show was over, he was 76 years old, but he kept shooting even though he was having problems with his teeth that needed careful makeup. His humor kept some of the old spirit alive, and his presence kept the show steady after Bee's death. He lived longer than everyone in the original group and kept working until he died in 1979. He got a lot of attention from the producers in later seasons because the crowd still liked him. As hard as things were, the show might have gone on, but for what happened next? In 1970, CBS did something that shocked a lot of people. Season 6 of Petticoat Junction still had a good rating of 19.9, which should have put it among the best shows on the network. But CBS was getting ready for what would become known as the Rural Purge, a large-scale cancellation of shows with country themes. Robert Wood, who was president of CBS, wanted to reach younger people in cities because advertising liked them for buying big things like cars and refrigerators. People thought that shows in rural areas would attract older people. There were a lot of fans of Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, and the Beverly Hillbillies, but they were all cut. Over 40 million people watched and were left angry and confused. There was a quiet fight inside the network that set off a major change in television in that year. Robert Wood had been pushing for this change, but Michael Dann, who was in charge of planning, was against it. Dann had spent years planning CBS's schedule, and he wanted to keep the shows that families love, but sponsors were putting a lot of pressure on him. And studies showed that younger people in cities were the key to the future. 1970, Wood fired Dann and hired Fred Silverman in his place. The new people in charge got rid of the country shows and the board as a whole. While Dann went to work for public TV, CBS kept making new urban comedies like The Mary Tyler Moore Show. After the purge, the network and American TV in general changed a lot. Not many people knew this, but CBS had already picked up Petticoat Junction for a 7th season in 1969. This wasn't because of good numbers or fan interest. The network needed enough color shows to send them to other networks. To make the most money, there had to be color shows for 5 full years, from 1965 to 1970. CBS had what it needed when season 7 ended on April 4, 1970. Fans were angry when they heard the show was being canceled, but the money goals had already been met. It was mostly just the color seasons that were pushed. In reruns, while the early black and white years were forgotten because of rights issues. The first seasons, which were filmed from 1963 to 1965, were stuck in a long legal battle with Viacom. They were kept out of usage for decades and almost went away. They didn't come back until 2011, when MeTV finally did. This let fans see how the show really began. The show tried to stay true to itself after Bee's death, but over time, parts of it slowly moved away. Floyd and Charlie, the train workers, used to be a big part of the show's appeal, but as new stories tried to find what made the old ones so interesting, Floyd and Charlie were pushed to the side. Storylines and ideas from previous years were used again and again by writers in the hopes that it would still feel new. It wasn't. People caught on. And the repeated parts made me think of how far the show had fallen from its early magic. Surprisingly, one part of the show's world made it through. Fans know the water tower from Petticoat Junction very well. It had its own story. It was built in 1938 in Jamestown, California, to give steam trains water. By the 1970s, the tower was so broken down that only its concrete base and spout were left. In 2001, a project to rebuild it brought it back to life. The new one was built on the old footings from 1938 and had to follow strict rules for preserving historic sites. A wooden roof was added based on pictures from the 1920s because towers with open tops quickly fell apart. The only parts that were still there are the footings and the spout. Fans still go to the tower and are amazed that it has stood strong through so many decades of change. The tower at Railtown 1897 State Historic Park is more than just an idea. It still cleans real steam engines twice a day, just like it did almost 100 years ago. In the morning and afternoon, trains pull up to the tower, and its staff quickly fills their tenders. This process makes the same sounds and moves that people would have seen in the 1930s. The tower holds enough water for 2 engines. It's not often that history can still be felt and seen, even though the show used to make the tower look like a far-off story. People still come from all over the country to see it in Jamestown. Posts and articles from 2025 say that the tower is still standing strong. It's become a symbol of the show's history, and tourists often take pictures of themselves laughing next to it, trying to grab a bit of the past. The tower is now even in the park's name. Teenagers and young adults who watch MeTV reruns and streaming services are now interested in the show. A lot of them make the trip just to stand where old scenes were shot. Because of gaps in past syndication, some episodes with the tower are still hard to find. This makes the times when it does show up even more important. The team that worked on the rebuilding in 2001 paid close attention to every detail. They had to be accurate because of preservation rules, and they didn't want an open-top plan because that style had failed twice before. The strong wooden roof, which was based on pictures from the 1920s, was an important part of the building. Most of the gear was from 1938, and everything else was made to look like it did back then. The end result is a tower that combines its past and present, being both a reminder of the past and a living part of the present. It shows that careful restoration can bring back something that was about to disappear for good, giving fans and tourists a place where the story isn't quite over.